Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and I'm continuing on to make the wheels for the belt grinder. Now, I guess Jeremy Schmidt, I think he may have bought his wheels because there's not a lot of talk about them in the instructions that I got from him. But myself, I felt like making them. And as one of my viewers pointed out, I could have simplified the process a whole lot if I just used some steel cans and poured the aluminum in the cans, you know, to cast the wheels instead of messing around with the sand. You know, it's taking a lot of time. The first time with the sand it was too dry, and the second time I think it was too wet. I believe that when you get little holes in your cast metal, that's a sign that your sand was too wet and that steam, you know, boiling up through your metal. And I had a little bit of that. So I know if I were going to do it again, I'd cast the aluminum in some steel cans, and I think I'd come out a whole lot better off. But a little bit too late for that now. And I had started off going one direction with the wheels. I was going to put the drive wheel on a 5/8 shaft, so I bored it to 5/8. Now, the other wheel I was going to put on a mandrel and turn the dome and everything, so I bored it to 3/4. And the fact that I was going to put the drive wheel on a shaft is why I wanted to board it to 5/8, and I don't want to go bore it again. But in the meantime, I was looking at what Jeremy Schmidt did, and he put a split bushing on his drive motor to mount the wheel on. Much simpler and much better, and simplifies things a whole lot. So that's what I'm going to do. We got a bushing ordered, which should be here any day now, and I've got a mandrel ordered to fit the 5/8 hole that I've already made, so that I can set it up there and clean up the thing. You know, for me it's much easier to crown the wheel on a mandrel, you know, instead of having it any other way that I can think of holding it. And so in this video, I know I'll get through, because I'm doing this intro after I did parts of the video, and I know the progress I'll make, and that I'll switch harshes in midstream and some things like that. And then probably after this part of the video I'll have to take a break, because it's time to do the oil change, 50,000 mile oil change on the truck, and the brake rotors have picked up a bit of warp, you know, and at 60 miles an hour you get some shake in the wheel when you step on the brake. So I'm going to do a brake job. This is all going to get in the way of the belt grinder, but I want to get all that done before next month, because in November on the 17th there's a thing going on in Lindale, Texas called Good of the Land Fest, and I'm going to that. There's going to be quite a few YouTube creators there. The guy that puts on the bash, I can't remember his name, Zinkowski or something like that, I think. He's going to be there. Keith Rucker's going to be there. Adam Booth's going to be there. Jim Bollinger's going to be there. And a bunch of guys whose channels I've never heard of, but it's sort of in a more of I guess a blacksmith kind of bent. They're going to be there. And I thought Chucky 2009 was going to be there, and I was kind of excited about that because I'd get to meet him. But in the meantime, I understand he's come up with something else he needs to do worse. So anyway, the boss lady and I are going to go down on November the 17th to Lindale, Texas for the Good of the Land Fest. If you want tickets for it, search for Lindale, Texas website, and they've got a link there, and you can get the early tickets cheaper than tickets at the gate, and they're using some kind of Eventbrite, I think is the name of the outfit they're using to handle the ticket sales. And I think the city of Lindale is, you know, supporting the whole thing, so it ought to be pretty well organized, you know. All right. Another thing about this little project is there's everything I do here. There's obviously better ways to do it, and when I get through doing them I think of, yeah, I should have done something else, like casting the metal in the tin. you know, in the steel cans. I should have done that. But you know, that's just part of doing this stuff. If I was to ever go and do it again, I would probably make some steel molds to pour the aluminum into, and then just force it out of there when it got cool. You know, to me that'd be probably the best way. But then again, this is probably the only belt sander, belt grinder that I'm ever going to make. You know, so let's just go on and make the mistakes and get it done. All right. I've had this pulley soaking in the oven for a good bit here at the maximum temperature. I really need it to be more like 750 degrees, but this oven's not going to deliver that temperature, so I'll get my 750 with my acetylene torch. And of course, I'm not going to be welding with the Hot Shot bug spray. It was just there for the time being. Things always seem to accumulate right down here. I don't know. Alright, I'll roll it over and do that on the other spot. Alright, so I've marked where the center of this thing is. I've got the compound on 1 degree. So I'm going to go ahead and dome this side of the thing, and then I'll get over there and dome the other side one way or another. So away we go. Alright, so that's one side done. I'll roll it over and do the other side the same way. Alright, due to the fact that I didn't make the hole in, I've got it about a 1/2 thousandth, I guess, smaller than it should be. And so I wasn't able to get this arbor all the way through it. I've been calling it mandrel. Looked up in the dictionary. The dictionary says they're pretty much the same thing, but with a little tiny difference. So anyway, I'm going to call it an arbor now. And I didn't get it very far through there, about a 1/2 inch through. So I had to make a piece here to latch onto it and hold on to the chuck so I could turn the thing end for end. Now I'm going to turn it end for end one more time with this thing set just as it, with the compound set just like it was, and make sure that this stuff meets up in the middle just right. And then this wheel will be crowned. I know I keep saying domed, but it's crowned. It's going to be crowned and ruled all over all other wheels. Alright, now this one is crowned. And I had a big void right there. I think must have been 3/8 of an inch deep. And I filled it up with that aluminum weld from Harbor Freight, and it did an excellent job. And it's a smooth spot there now. There's a couple little dings here and there that I didn't fill up, but the main hole's full. And the next job to do is to go ahead and make the bearing mounting area in each one of these. So I'll have to take this one back off of this arbor and put it back in the chuck and bore it to fit the bearing, and then actually bore the center hole out big enough to fit the spacer, bearing spacer that I'm going to put in there. I just made the hole so I could put it on an arbor and crown the thing. Okay, now then, time to move on to the real size hole. This is the 4-inch wheel. It's the only one that's going to get a bearing other than the two 2-inchers. The 5-inch is going to get a flange in it, so that'll be a whole different game on it. The arbor for it hasn't arrived yet. I believe this is the size bearing that I'll use on all the wheels that require bearings, which would be this one and the two 2-inchers. This one right here is going to be a totally different setup. I also used that aluminum weld to plug a void there, and as good as it worked on this one, I'm sure it'll work just fine there too. Alright, so I'm machining in the pocket to hold the bearing, and I'm just that's to the right depth, but I'm about 10 thousandths from being wide enough down at the bottom of the hole. And I'm keeping up with all this with the dial indicator there, and by putting a 0 on my dial here at the exact right outer diameter of the thing. Okay, so what I had when I got through was a little shoulder down in the bottom of the pocket there, where I didn't want to really get that close until the last minute. So what I'm doing is I'm machining out that little shoulder in the bottom of the bearing pocket, and it'll be the right size then for the bearing to slide in. Alright, so now I'm going to put a 1-inch hole in it, and I've got a taper shank drill bit there that's, I guess, 7/8 at least. That'll give me a good start. 15/16. Running it pretty slow, and it's eating its way right on in. Almost. I'm going to turn the camera off so that you guys won't hear any swearing or anything if I get messed up on this next step. Well, maybe not. That's through. I can tell the fact everything went slack. Just wishful thinking before. Yes, that's through it. So now I got to turn this thing around and bore the little hole on the other side, and we'll be in business. There's the idler wheel. It's completed and almost complete on the main drive wheel. And before I show any more video, well, I'm going to have all the wheels completely finished. So I just thought I'd let you have a little preview of what it's going to look like there. It's kind of warm because I put it in the oven for a couple of minutes, but There you go, huh? Nice looking wheel. Alright, so to be continued in the next exciting chapter. We'll be down to the really hard stuff next. We'll be cutting out the frame pieces and the hinges and all those things that are difficult to do. At least they're difficult if you don't have a CNC operated plasma cutter. Well, it seems like one of Bubba's aunts married this Indian fellow named Chief Running Nose. I said Running Nose, yeah, that was his name. And Indians don't name their kids Bubba. Anyway, so he usually spent his time hanging out down by the general store. So one summer, this kid with his family was going down to nearby campgrounds, and they stopped at the general store to pick up some supplies. And this kid, he's probably about 10 or 12, he walks up to Chief Running Nose. Chief Running Nose got this sign that says, longest memory in the world, ask me anything. Well, the kid looked him up and down and says, if you got such a good memory, he says, what'd you have for breakfast on this day 15 years ago? And Chief said, oh, that easy, eggs. Kid looked at him a little bit and thought, wow, he could just be telling me that, He got back in the car and left with his family. About 15 years later, he's all grown up and he comes back through there. And sure enough, there's Chief Running Nose still sitting out there in front of the general store. Still got that sign that says, longest memory in the world. Ask me anything. So the kid walks up and he says, how, Chief? Chief says, scrambled. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.